Okay, sorry, I sneezed, so I need to pause and make an edit. Um, so like I was saying, we have Vian Powder, and aside from the fact that they try to rob the Jace's place, we don't see that many of a connection. But we can't forget that Powder still has the blue crystals that are essential or seem to be pretty important to Jace's research. And we already saw in the first episode the destructive power that has. So maybe a bit of foreshadowing here. We don't know at this point, right? So back to Vi and Powder. Um, they still have the threat of the enforcers holding off over their necks because they need a culprit for what happened at the first episode during the explosion and the assault, right? The assault, no, assault kind of means robbery in Portuguese, but assault in English means like bah, physical stuff, right? So the robbery, I'll say it, the theft, better, the theft. So they need a culprit, right? And Marcus goes and makes another visit to what is his name again? I always forget. Vander's bar, you know, and some heat get exchanged. We see that Marcus is actually a pretty violent character, kind of a fascist, really. You're a typical fascist cop. Not that all cops are fascists. Most of them are not, but you know what I mean. Uh, it's definitely a place where I mean it's a job where you can exercise violence and not be punished for it. So it is a place where some really crappy people will get inside of, you know. Uh, there are actual serial killers who were cops, like in plural. So Marcus is not a serial killer as far as we can tell, but he says that he's gonna like trash, and I think he says I'm gonna kill all of you. It's something so similar to kill. When he exits the bar, uh, Powder, Jinx, and the group they hide during the search. They are searching for their group. I think it's Silco who gave Marcus that information. And then Vi and Powder discover by Little Man, aka Echo, the the deal that enforcers put up to Vander. You know, like deliver one culprit, and we will stop like doing these aggressive searches around your territory, pretty much. And there is this whole thing going on about the possibility, the threat of war due to this incident. And because enforcers don't typically go to the underside, to the undercity. They are like, sorry, I have a bit of a cold, man. I really can't. I really need to make this video, so. Uh, okay. So they typically stay out of the undercity life. But this incident is enough to warrant a thorough research of the Undercity and the threat of war, right? Because the Undercity always feels like he's hanging by a thread of not attacking Piltover. I think Piltover doesn't know, it's unaware to how much resentment the Undercity has for it, you know. Especially after the flashback that we get on the very first episode, but it plays more of a role now. of what happened back then, why Powder and Jink's parents were killed. And they were killed because of an attempt at revolution. So revolution is definitely a theme that is appearing on this show now. Is flourishing, Me and the research part are here. So we see these themes are kind of tying together in a really elegant and not in your face way. It's not like revolution. It's like it's subtle, but it's there definitely. So that is really nice. Uh, the cohesion of it all. And during that attempt that Vander was leading, Vi and Powder parents were killed. They were fighting alongside him, and they were casualties, I guess. Casualties of war. And Vander says that war has no winners, or something really similar to that. He has this whole dialogue with Vi, not with Powder. Because Vi is really on the edge now. How can you guarantee your safety? We need to fight. And we see that Vander was really different from who he is now. But we don't still don't get the full picture. And by the end of the episode, Vi decides to send a message to the enforcers, right? And pretty much deliver herself into custody. That was the weirdest way to phrase that, but words are escaping my head right now. And we end on a cliffhanger, so we see that Vi is more complex than we think. She has this anger and resentment that represents the Undercity resentment as well, but she's not impulsive like Jace, for instance, right? She's more mature in some ways. And I think that maturity comes from living in such a hard place. And as I talked in the first episode, I don't think Vander is exactly a father figure to either Vi or Powder. It's almost like being an orphan in Undercity is really common. I mean, we don't see Milo's, Clegor, Echo's parents even mentioned at any time during the show. You don't see much family at all. And we see family on the Piltover side of things. Medarda, she says, I'm the poorest of the Medardas, so family. Um, we have Caitlyn parents and Caitlyn. We have Jace's mother. We don't have that in the Undercity. I don't know if that's by accident or what, or just because those characters make sense on the Piltover. But if it's done intentionally, you know, it's a pretty awesome detail, man, and writing overall. Pretty damn awesome. And so it's almost like, yeah, they just need to be way, way more autonomous and self sufficient. And I think that's where Vi gets all her maturity, while still not being able to really provide the needed guidance that Powder needs, because she haven't got that herself from Vander or from anyone else. So another thing that I almost forget. We see some tension arriving after Marcus' encounter. Like, we see that um, he is not respected that much by some residents. You know, they're starting to get on the edge. They want to go and beat the crap out some enforcers and do a revolution, man, a violent revolution, because they see no other way to change things. And Vander was like that in the past, but not anymore after witnessing firsthand the destruction that it brought in the Undercity. So some tensions are arriving. And Silco is on the backstage feeding Marcus some information. And I think, let me check something. I think the it's definitely during this episode where his research takes another step, right? Let me check something really quick. I'm pretty sure
This is a fine line.
that he gives Deckard or Deckand. I almost forget the guy's name. The purple substance, and he starts going into this really awful transformation. Like awful, not in the sense that it's done badly. It's like it's terrible. He's becoming a monster. So yeah, he's not as present in this episode, but we can see that he's up to something. You know, he know that the enforcers are after the vendors' proteges. You know, and we know by now that he has something to do with Vander. We don't know exactly why, what, but episode 3 is there to answer our questions. Will Vi get arrested? What Silco has to do with Vander? That and much more on the next episode. And cut!